Hello everybody and welcome into the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series as they make their stop here tonight with the third race of the season, and we are at Chicagoland Speedway. We got a good one in store for you. Thank you all so much for tuning in. You are watching Austin Green on PGR eSports. Well, a couple things to go through, but before we get to that, let's take a look at tonight's starting grid as the drivers are rolling, qualifying complete, and taking the pole. It's going to be Charles Van Schaik in the 23. Michael Newman will start to his outside in second. It's going to be Colton Hardy for Loose Lugnuts back in third, with Michael Miller to his outside in fourth. Jay Stinson starts from the fifth spot here tonight. He'll have a teammate in Kenneth Redinger to his outside in sixth. Dylan Paws, Bill Hales make up row number 4, and it's going to be Joe Yates in the 87 alongside Haas Beverly. Those two round out your top 10. Evan Schilling, David Traylor, they'll start back in row number 6 here tonight. Row 7 is going to be Jonathan Dominics and Justin Parham, Roger Strickland, Jesse Wise in row 8, and it's Mark Beverly and Lance Thompson in row 9. Eric Hagdahl starts in 19th, Matthew Fritz in 20th, Keith Prince, Kevin Winker, row 11, and it's Rick LePage, the Canadian driver in the field. Rounding out the field, he will start in 23rd. Brief look at your race info. It's the QH Design 225 here tonight. Again, we are in the Xfinity Series. That was the big change from last season to this season. 150 laps going to be the distance. Stage break on lap 30, 95% fuel. Drivers will have 4 sets of tires, 1 fast repair, fixed setups, and 3 green-white checkers if we were to need them. All right, here we go. Pace car is off. Green flag is in the air. We are racing at Chicago. Lap 1 in the books, and it goes to the 23 of Charles Van Schaik, already out to a pretty healthy lead as he sees a couple drivers getting a little racy behind him. That's Colton Hardy and Michael Newman. Newman trying to roll the top lane, Hardy on the bottom. At 97, not going to be able to make it happen. He'll have to slide up in line, and that's kind of the theme for most of the field right now is get up in line and start conserving those tires because we're going to see some long runs. Maybe not so much in this first stage. Again, fuel mileage, and really, for that matter, tire wear probably not going to be a major issue as just as I say that, we had one tag the wall there coming out of 4. Couldn't tell if that was Michael Newman or Colton Hardy. Either way, the point I'm trying to make is maybe not for stage 1. We may not see it quite as much as we'll see it the rest of the race, but these first 10 laps or so, you know, you fight for a little bit of track position, try to make something happen off the restart, and then it is quickly try to settle into a groove, start worrying about saving your tires because you're going to need them late in the run here. We've seen how the trucks drive at this track and the way they wear tires. Well, guess what? The Xfinity cars do the same thing. The only difference is they do it worse. So it's going to be really interesting tonight to see who can conserve their tires early and have the speed late. But right now, it is all the 23 of Charles Van Schaik out in front leading this field. And for Charles Van Schaik, not the best week at Daytona last time that we were here on broadcast. But tonight, I mean, this is his first pole, at least from what I've seen. And, I mean, so far, we'll hold that thought. Caution's out. Maybe some trouble further back here as we've got a couple on the apron. It looks like this trouble was back right around Matthew Fritz. And, the 22 of Haas Beverly gets collected at the end of it. As there's the 27 of Matthew Fritz, who's slow. That's Haas Beverly, who we talked about, I believe got involved kind of right at the end of this wreck. And then I forgot if there was maybe even more damage here for Jonathan Dominics. Yes, there is major right front damage. You can see that wheel is not spinning. That's not a good sign for the 94 as he's immediately just going to drive it down to the pits. And it rolls now, but he's still going to have to use his fast repair with the amount of suspension damage he sustained in that one. Let's go back and take a look at exactly what went wrong here. So it looks like the contact's going to start with Jonathan Dominics and the 22 of Haas Beverly. And this was going down the backstretch. And by the way, I don't think it's going to necessarily be relevant to this incident here. But you notice here at Chicagoland, that backstretch has a slight curve to it. And so here you go. You got the 22 of Haas Beverly. He's running the outside. You've got Jonathan Dominics on the inside. And then just slight contact as the 22, as they come off the corner. I was trying to figure out here, is it just two guys kind of one running up, one running down? Yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. I mean, certainly from that view, it looks like the 94 is maybe slightly moving up. I don't know if Haas Beverly is really moving down much, if any. In fact, yeah, the 22 maybe right at the end, but it almost doesn't look like it to me. What looks like happens here is that the 94 of Jonathan Dominics, he's probably about 2 inches from being clear in front of Haas Beverly. And so what he's trying to do is slide up in front of this 22 as quick as he can so that, of course, he can get that momentum going again, and just right here slides up, just not quite clear. And that's how he gets hooked into the outside wall, goes for a slide, and then right here just got to assume it's part of that broken suspension. He just can't get disconnected from Haas Beverly as they go into the outside wall again, and then Haas Beverly spins down to the apron where I believe he had that secondary hit with Matthew Fritz. We'll have to watch that here from the second view. So there's a contact down in front. You see Matthew Fritz right on the inside line. He's checking up, trying to get wound up for this thing, and then the last second, Haas Beverly rolls down, and oh man, that's a big hit for Matthew Fritz. He had nowhere to go right there. Spins around a few times. He'll get back rolling. I don't think that gave him a lot of damage, assuming, of course, it didn't cause anything internally with suspension, as it did to, of course, the 94 Jonathan Dominics. We talked about the hit. Watch it from the cockpit view, and let's see if it looks like this may have... Yeah, right there. I mean, he hits the concrete wall, and actually looks like his wheel almost goes into kind of straight lock mode. I'm not sure if it disconnected itself. But so at that point, he really didn't have much of any control of the race car. And that's why he just holds the brakes here. He starts to get back rolling, but at this point, you can see that wheel is still locked pretty much dead center. All right, give you one more angle of it here before we go back live. And this one, get a look here from TV2. This was a big hit. Not necessarily that one. That was a pretty good shot for the 94. The big hit, though, is going to be the second one for Haas Beverly, and then the third one, which is going to be here for Matthew Fritz and Haas Beverly. Matthew Fritz trying everything to dodge it, but no luck. And look at that. See the rear tires jump off the ground. Haas Beverly got a little bumpy for him as well. All right, as we go back up front, lights are on the pace car still, so it doesn't look like we're going to be going back green, at least not this time around. We'll have to take at least one more caution lap, but out in front, it is still the 23 of Charles Van Schaik. He took the pole, and he's taken every lap of this race so far. Colton Hardy sits in second. You see him trying to get those tires warmed up as he gets ready for the restart. In fact, we'll take a look at the driver cams now. First up, David Traylor. But we're going to go ahead and hide him for now and talk about the man that we were just mentioning, and that is Colton Hardy in the 97 on the outside. And I know we're going to be saying this a few times throughout the season, so get used to hearing it. But, I mean, for a driver who kind of, broke onto the scene last year, I mean, he has picked things up quickly, and he just gets better and better with each and every race. And, of course, it helps when you've got really good teammates behind you. And I mentioned loose lug nuts earlier, but you see he's actually, this year, one of the drivers on White Knuckle Racing. And he's got some strong teammates, one of them, of course, being the 54 of David Traylor, who right now sits in the 9th position. He's up 3 spots from where he started this race at. And it looks like he's having a pretty good time. Doesn't have anything to necessarily be stressed out about just yet. He knows we got a long way to go in this race and still a stage break ahead of us, which is going to be about 22 laps away, make it 21 rather, from when we take the green flag right here. Again, don't forget that stage break will be on lap 30, not at the end of lap 30 like we see with certain other leagues. It will be on lap 30. The stage will be declared complete. If you're just tuning in, we certainly appreciate you being here. Hope that you are having a good Friday night, Friday evening, depending on what part of the country you're in. As you are watching the QH Design 225 for the Asphalt Outlaws Racing. And I keep calling it the Xfinity Series. It's just the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Series. But, I mean, it's the Xfinity cars this year. Last year, I referred to it as the Truck Series. And so far, I think I've got to say, I've liked these Xfinity cars a whole lot more with the racing product they've provided. Green flag back in the air for Charles Van Schaik. Gets off to a phenomenal jump. And he's going to get clear well before they get down to the banking into turn number 1. He's already got it stretched to about 3 to 4 tenths of a second lead over the second place battle, which is Jay Stinson versus Colton Hardy. Hardy's going to battle hard for this. He's got the preferred lane. Jay Stinson, he's already picked up 2 from where he started. He loves this track. We know back from the Noma Truck Series days, Jay Stinson, this is one of the tracks that he feels like he is really good at. And he's going to try to prove it here tonight as he continues to run side by side with the 97. All this allowing Charles Van Schaik to continue to stretch that lead out more and more as we have now crossed the line to complete officially 10 laps here tonight. Further back, not as much organization, at least not as quickly as we had on that initial restart. We had drivers that were pretty much all single file within that first lap. That is not the case this time around. In fact, for Joe Yakes here, currently sits in the 14th spot. He's trying to work his way back towards the front. He's going to have to get around the 19 of Justin Parham if he wants to do so. So as now, looks like for the most part, things start to single file out. The 55 still trying to be a little bit of a rebel, as that's Mark Beverly running the bottom of the racetrack. And Mark Beverly has already picked up 4 spots from where he started. And I'm not sure if Mark doesn't qualify or if the qualifying efforts just maybe aren't his friend a lot of the times. But the 55, I mean, this is one of the drivers that just seems like he can always find speed as the race goes on. And, you know, when you have a race that has stage breaks, these kind of drivers are dangerous, right? Because you know that they're going to learn a lot in those first 30 laps. They'll probably gain some track position in the process. And then by the time we get to that final stage, they're just going to keep learning. They've already learned a little bit, and they'll continue their drive to the front. Again, Mark Beverly, keep an eye on him. He continues to move forward. Charles Van Schaik has a 0.6 of a second lead over Colton Hardy as they finally were able to settle the battle for second out. And so now for the 97, what does he do? If you're Colton Hardy here, do you try to burn up some tire to go track him down? Do you let the draft do the work down the straightaways and just try to stay close here, save a little bit of tire? That's the questions that you got to ask yourself right now in the race car. Meanwhile, the battle for 4th, this is going to be Michael Newman and now David Traylor in the 54. Look at this. He's going to look 3 wide here off of 2. Can't quite get it. Stinson had the momentum, so Traylor's going to have to wait for at least another set of corners. In fact, I was trying to get a little bit of a better angle of that battle here from out back as 12 of Michael Newman got on the apron there, just bumped it, and that car got really, really loose. That's going to open the door here now for the 20 of Kenneth Redinger. He's going to try to sneak by on the outside as well. Further back, another move being made. That's the 77 of Michael Miller. Beautiful looking paint scheme on his Toyota Supra here tonight, as he's going to try to see if he can get by the inside here of Bill Hales and the 11 of Eric Hegdahl. And nothing doing there. By the way, Eric Hegdahl, new color scheme on board for him here tonight. It's the 4Wide Broadcasting Network Toyota Supra that currently sits in 7th. He is another driver who's been on the move. He's up 12 spots from where he started this race at. Go a few positions more back. We find ourselves the 69 of Jesse Wise. Good looking paint scheme for him as well. The color scheme, that is. Right now, he sits in 9th, and he is also a driver on the move. He is up 7 positions from where he started this race at. Colton Hardy continues to run 2nd for the moment. David Traylor is up to 3rd. And it's just, I mean, Charles Van Schaik, I mean, what else can you say? He continues to spread this lead out more and more as each lap goes by, and you almost start to wonder here if, you know, at some point they're not able to catch him. I'd be nervous about him just winning this race with the raw speed. You know, you figure usually if you have a driver kind of pull away from the field this much, this early in a run, it means that they're maybe using their tires up just a little bit too much. But for Van Schaik, I don't know if that's the case, because so far, I mean, Hardy is running pretty tough here, and it's just not even been able to even take a bite out of that lead, at least not as of yet. If you look at the dashboard speeds, let's hop on an onboard ride here with your leader for a lap around Chicagoland. You can see he does go all the way down just about to the grass. You can utilize going below the apron here at Chicagoland. There are no out of bounds. That goes for pretty much every part of the track, so front stretch and back stretch, anywhere in between. If you want to go below that apron, you are able to do so. As he rockets down the backstretch, tops out about 190 miles an hour or so, and maybe a little bit less there, as I believe the dashboard sputtered just a little bit. And then the front stretch here is where you really kind of build up all your speed. Now notice he continues to cut the track. Colton Hardy has the option to do that. He'll try to follow the draft of his 23 down the entirety of the front stretch. And for Colton Hardy, gets a little bit faster as he does hit just about 190 miles an hour. And that time as they had worked through the corner. Excuse me, as they worked down into the corner, rather. And so 190 miles an hour, eventually you're going to start wearing tires out if you keep kind of full sending it into the turns, if you will. Charles Van Schaik, all of a sudden that lead's not growing anymore. Now, granted, it's already about a second, so maybe he is saving a little bit of tire, but for that 23, how quickly he was extending that lead, to see it kind of flatten out just a little bit now and maybe start to kind of go back in the opposite direction. We'll have to keep an eye on it here as we now head further back. Bill Hales is in 7th. Eric Hegdahl in 8th, and a little bit of a battle, but close moment right there. 3 wide as they're all trying to get around the chaos. The 69 got into the outside wall. That was Jesse Wise. And then, man, you had a cluster of them, including Dylan Paz. And then the 19 of Justin Parham, who were just trying to sneak by there without incident. And that was close to being our second caution of the night here with just 20 laps complete. And so with just 20 of 150 laps in the books, you start to wonder, is it go time? If you're Colton Hardy, have you been saving any tire or have you been pushing it? And for his teammate David Traylor, if he gets there, how hard does he run his teammate? Does he try to get around him quick enough here to maybe go catch the leader? Or does he try to kind of play nice here and let this stage pan out the way it's going? By the way, don't forget that the stage is now going to be over in officially 9 more laps. The second we hit lap 30, as we cross the line to take lap 30, that will end the stage. So you've got about a 3-way battle for second. No real contest for the lead. And then as you get further back, 2 of the Noma Motorsports drivers, well, I guess I should say a little bit further up, we've got a few of the Noma Motorsports drivers currently running inside the top 10, and then a couple more sitting just outside of it. But Justin Parham battling with Dylan Paz. This is for the 9th spot. And for Dylan Paz, again, we always talk about, you hear us interchange the 2 series a lot, right? The Noma Truck Series and then the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Series. And the reason we do that is because so many of the same drivers that you see here on Fridays, you see on Saturdays as well, and vice versa, of course. And the reason I mention that is because Dylan Paz, if you remember back to the Noma Truck Series, not last week, but the week before, he got his first win. It was at Darlington Raceway. And yeah, he got his first win in the Noma Truck Series. And what a confidence booster that was for Dylan. And anytime you get that first win, not only do you kind of knock the chip off your shoulder, but also it gives you some confidence to, kind of tell yourself, well, I know I can go out here and get the job done. I've already done it before. And so for Dylan Paz, this is going to be nothing new if he can get his way back to the front here tonight. But he still has to keep his head down. He's got some work to do and some positions to pick up, especially with the stage break quickly approaching. Further back, there's the 87 of Joe Yakes as he looks to the inside. Here we go. They're going to go 3 wide, and Yakes is washing up. Wow, boy, that got really close as he almost got into the left rear of Michael Miller as he slid up the groove through 3 and 4. Boy, I don't think Michael Miller had any idea just how close that got. Let's back this up and take another look. Watch how close this was to being our second caution of the night for Joe Yakes here. He gets into the corner. I got to assume he realizes they're 3 wide. He's hoping it'll stick, and it's just not. I mean, it's just not. The 77's running that seam, so Yakes doesn't have a ton of room anyway. But then you can see Joe as he starts to just slightly come up. The 77's trying to keep him down, and Yakes had to completely bail out of the throttle not to get into him. That could have certainly been a heck of a lot worse, and now they're right back to it. 3 wide again. This time it's Kevin Winker, though, on the outside trying to make something work. And the 87 of Yakes tries it again, but again, you see he starts to get a little bit tight in the middle of the corner. He had to get out of the throttle, but he was able to at least stay even as they're now 3 wide down the backstretch. Now a little bit of elbows out here. You start to wonder, is the 77 and the 87 starting to get a little bit frustrated with each other as Yakes, he's going to slide up a little bit again, but not able to use that 77 up enough to try to get clear. And out front, still a big lead for the leader, so we will keep all eyes back here as this is the battle that's at least got me the most intrigued in the sense of, I don't know who's going to get it. The 77, though, got tight right there. And finally, and only finally, is that going to allow the 87 of Yakes to get by. Kevin Winker follows in that 42 Chevy Camaro. And so now if you're, Michael Miller, you got to try to regroup, see if you can pick up a position or two before this stage is all said and done. As, boy, he almost got into the back of the 42 there as the 18, maybe with a little bit of an issue on the bottom. By the way, the 18 car, that is Evan Schilling, who just lost that position. So now we will go back up front because Charles Van Schaik is going to be coming to just 2 laps to go here in the stage. This could be that 23 car's first stage win of the season if he can find a way to hold on for 2 more laps. He's got no pressure out back. Colton Hardy still sitting in second. David Traylor in third. But Jay Stinson is challenging, and he's going to have some help here. Some more firepower, if you will, because here comes the 20, his teammate. That's Kenneth Redinger. Redinger, what does he do here? Does he try to push this too close enough to make it awkward for David Traylor, or does he try to make a move on his teammate himself? Either way, they're going to have one more lap to do it when they cross the line this time around. David Traylor trying to hold on to that final podium position here for the stage. And the 2 Noma Motorsports drivers are trying to find a way to get around them. All right, back up front for Charles Van Schaik. White flag is in the air for the stage. 1 lap to go. And the 23 looks nice and smooth as he works his way through 1 and 2. It's looked that way all night, but I mean, how about the clinic here in the first 30 laps of this race? We had a caution. That certainly gave drivers a chance to try to shake some things up, but I mean, for Charles Van Schaik, what else can you ask for the start of a race besides that much speed and creating that big of a gap in the span of just about 20 laps? Off of turn 4, here he comes to the green and white checkered. Charles Van Schaik is your stage 1 winner at Chicagoland.
All right, man, caution is out. Caution is out.
And there is the stage caution. So the rest of the drivers will race back across the line. So nicely done for Charles Van Schaik. By the way, rounding out the podium there in the stage, Colton Hardy finishes second, and David Traylor finishes in third. All right, so as Charles Van Schaik brings it around, he'll catch the pace car, as will the rest of the field. They'll get grouped up for pit stops. We're going to see full fuel, and actually, that was an interesting look here. I wonder what... Let's see if we can go back to what I just saw right there. I take that back. It's what I thought I saw. The way the yellow reflected off the rims, I thought his brake rotors and the rears were glowing. I was getting ready to say that could be a potential issue for the 23, but it is not indeed the case. It was just a reflection. So we are going to go ahead and take a quick break as these guys complete their first sequence of pit stops under yellow. And when we come back, we'll see if we can get a word with your stage winner. Stick with us at Chicagoland.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive, especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving, it feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to the QH Design 225 from Chicagoland Raceway. You see David Traylor getting ready to get going back to the green flag. Colton Hardy, he gets himself ready as well. Those were two of the top 5 drivers during that last stage. But now we got a chance to speak with your stage winner, and that is Charles Van Schaik. Charles, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yep, got a copy.
Well, you looked really good there through the first 30 laps. I know we had a caution there just about after the first 10, but overall, how's the car feeling out in front?
Clean air is king at these, I call them rhythm tracks. You know, you got to hit the same marks. Longer runs, you got to let off a little earlier. But yeah, clean air is king on these rhythm tracks. And you know, I knew once I saw them battling, I pushed a little hard in the beginning, and then I coasted the rest of the way. So.
Well, it's early on in the season, but man, what a statement that was. You were on rails with the lead that you created there, and you know, I know it's a stage win, but you already know the speed you got here tonight. Does that kind of boost the confidence a little bit more to go out here and try to get the win?
Yeah, definitely. Just going to have to pace myself. You know, you don't want to burn up the tires now. I knew I had a short stint there, but definitely need to take care of the tires, keep my pace, and keep everyone behind me, and don't fight if someone has a run, and I'll just get back behind them, or get back behind them and then pass them hopefully later on.
Sounds like a plan. Well, hey, again, congrats on the Stage 1 win, and we'll see if we're talking to you again at the end of this race.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, bud.
There you go. Charles Van Schaik said he knows he's going to have to save a little bit more tire this time around, and we know that as well up here in the booth. That's going to be kind of the result of the fact that that is the only stage break that we have now wrapped up. So from here, it's the only cautions we'll see are ones for incident, and that means that as we cross the line, we are going back to green flag racing, and it looks like it's going to be still almost 120 laps to go. Going to be a little bit less, in fact. Looks like about 115, but Charles Van Schaik gets away with the best restart of the bunch, and he leads them down through turn 1 and 2 as they're side-by-side out back. That's Jay Stinson fighting pretty hard here. This is for the 4th spot, and we'll see if he's able to hold on to it. That's Colton Hardy on his inside. Meanwhile, just in front of those two, Kenneth Redinger, David Traylor start to battle now. Redinger will get clear, and we'll see how aggressive he is here in terms of trying to make this 23 make a mistake. We heard Charles mention that he needed to save some tire, and so you wonder, are the other drivers in the same position here? Does Redinger try to save tire now, or does he maybe try to get the clean air first and then try to worry about saving a little tire after that? And so, by the way, don't forget what we talked about, what the fuel window was looking like for these drivers, somewhere about right around 50 laps or so. So you figure you can stretch this first fuel run, I'd say to about lap 80, 85, somewhere in there, depending on how much you save. And if you can make it that far, you're still unfortunately not going to be close enough to just make it on that one stop. Have to make a second one, but it does open the door for some strategy, either on that first pit stop or, of course, the second. But for Charles Van Schaik, I don't think he's worried about any sort of strategy except for stay at the front for now. The 23, as he works down into turn number 3, notice the differing lines here. Not so much up front, but as you get further back, you've got an established outside groove, and you've got an established inside groove. Drivers have the option to kind of run the middle as well, although it seems like, or I guess I should say have the option to run all the way by the wall, but I haven't seen too many drivers doing that yet, although as the run continues to go on, we might see a few more of them do so. Eric Hegdahl, Michael Newman, 2 drivers that were pretty close to the outside wall there through 1 and 2, and for Eric Hegdahl, it's working out because now he is moving in the positive direction. He's up 14 positions from where he started this race, and now he'll make it 15 as he's going to get by the 2 of Jay Stinson. Oh, man, Stinson with a big moment right there. He got wicked loose in front of his teammate, Justin Parham. And Jay Stinson almost just looped it around here. Watch this from the cockpit view. Watch his hands. Just starts to step out on him. He's not expecting it, and boy, really, really lucky that Justin Parham was able to check up so that he could save it. But that was certainly a close call for one of the Noma Motorsports drivers. Meanwhile, back up front we go. Kenneth Redinger in the 20, still applying pressure to Charles Van Schaik. Is it enough to make this 23 slip up? He's been the better car all night. He qualified on pole, but this is the first time he's really had a challenge this long, this close to his back bumper, if you will. And Redinger looking a little bit higher on entry and actually stays on that line for the majority of the corner. And that's why he keeps getting these big runs that almost translate into a dive down as they work their way into the turn, but he has not tried that dive bomb move just yet. Redinger content to roll the top, try to get a run and see if he can't set him up here for one of these exits. Oh, he got another great run that time. Race down the apron 23 beats him to it. Now Redinger is going to try the long way around. Can't do it. He'll look for another crossover as they work off into turn number 1. And for Charles here, you wonder if he's not burning his stuff up. Is there a point where he decides to just let this 20 go, let him go out there and try to race his car as much as he wants, try to save a little tire and then get back to the front? Or does he just, again, continue to try to do what he's been doing the best here tonight, and that is lead laps and try to hopefully dominate the second stage the way he did the first? Further back in the field, a couple cars that have already, I don't want to say completely fallen off pace, but have certainly fallen off some of the lead packs. Doesn't look like we have anybody a lap down. Keith Brent's not here tonight, so although we thought he was starting this race, I believe he is just watching. Lance Thompson in 22nd. Rick LePage is in 21st. You've got Haas Beverly in 20th with Kevin Winker in 19th. Jesse Wise 18th. Jonathan Dominics, he currently sits in 17th. Remember, he was involved in an early wreck between him and Haas Beverly in the opening stages of this race. And for Haas Beverly, the question of how he recovered, looks like, I was trying to figure out, not that well for the 22. I was trying to figure out if there was anything else here that happened to him, but it doesn't look like there is. Just not been able to find the speed or the pace to get around lap traffic as of right now for Haas Beverly. Still a lot of time to go. We still have over 100 laps left in this race, which is 43 of 150 complete. But, you know, we've already had 3 races in the season. We kicked things off at Daytona. Then we had the race last week. Here we are this week at Chicagoland. And the reason I mention that is because I know it's early, but we've already seen a couple different winners, and we could very well be in position to see a third new one here tonight if Charles Van Schaik can continue to lead this field and show the dominance that he's got going right now. And the other thing to keep an eye on, not necessarily team points, but when we look at the schedule a little bit later, some of the races coming up that some drivers probably love, other ones that certain drivers probably hate. And, you know, you got to kind of pick your favorites, right? For Charles Van Schaik, I'm not sure if this was considered a favorite track or not, but when you've got this much speed at a track, you got to capitalize. And, you know, going back to Kenneth Redinger now, I almost wonder here, and we still got a long ways to go in this run. Remember, we've got probably about another, you know, 40 to 45 laps left in this run. But the big thing I was saying to kind of keep an eye on here, which is going to get interesting, is for Redinger, I mean, has this been pushing the pace or is he saving something? If he's been pushing the pace, then that would almost tell me that clean air has got to be the most important factor here tonight for Charles Van Schaik to be still leading and kind of pulling away after having to fend off this 24 for a handful of laps. Kenneth Redinger, one of the new additions to Noma Motorsports this season, over here in the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series. And of course, Grandstand Racing got some new additions over in the Noma Truck Series this season as well. We look forward to seeing Kenneth in that. Not tomorrow night, because remember, the Noma Truck Series is not going to be running tomorrow night due to the Bristol night race, I assume. And so we will have to wait until next week. But the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Series here tonight has put on a great product so far. We still have a lot more of it to watch. Further back, the battle is now on for, looks like, the 5th place position. Justin Parham currently leads over his teammate Jay Stinson. The 12 of Michael Newman's next. Then you've got the 87 of Joe Yakes kind of rounding out this 4-car, I don't want to say duo or tandem, kind of this 4-car group rather, that's got themselves worked together. And we'll be approaching lap 50 here in just a couple laps, that being about the third-way portion through this race. And Van Schaik continues to look strong. That gap, which had been closed up pretty tightly there for a while, is now starting to extend back out. And for Kenneth Redinger, does he bite the bullet maybe a little bit sooner than later and try to pit as soon as, well, I take that back. I guess the only other idea, because we talked about the fuel strategies, right? And what we're going to see here, we know they're going to have to pit at least once, and everybody's also going to have to pit twice, because there's just no way you can save the fuel needed to make it on a one-stop when you're pitting at lap, 80 to 85 is the kind of the general guess. Actually, even 90. Take that back. Even lap 90. And so 85 to 90, you figure that window, it's just not quite going to cut it in terms of just making this on a one-stop with it being a 150-lap race. But for Charles Van Schaik, he's not worried about fuel mileage. He's not worried about lap times. Well, I guess in theory he is worried about lap times, but he's just trying to focus on staying in the rhythm. You heard in his interview, he said this is one of those tracks that he considers a racing kind of rhythm type racetrack where, you race at the start, but then the main part of it is just kind of trying to find that rhythm get it together and be able to just put down consistent lap after lap for the entirety of the race. 50 of 150 laps now completed. It'll be 51 as they cross the line. We're going to go ahead and take another break, but we'll be back. Stick with us here at Chicagoland.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
But you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to the QH Design 225 for the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Series. And just before we go back to full screen, did want to show you what the upcoming schedule is looking like. The action that you missed last week, which again, I do want to apologize to everybody that was trying to tune in for that one. Matt Metler was supposed to be filling in for me, but he did have some issues. I believe his power actually went out due to storms, and so he was not able to make the broadcast. So again, apologize to everyone for that. It was either, that might have been the Saturday one. I know the normal one had a similar issue. Point being that, again, do apologize for that to everyone that was trying to tune into that. And then also, as we take a look now at this, I'm just going to talk about your race winner from last week, but we'll hold off on that for now. Next week, we're going to head to Phoenix Raceway. That will be the first short track of the season. So looking forward to that. And then it's off to the first road course of the season, which will be Road America on October 4th, followed by Rockingham Speedway. And boy, that was an interesting one last season, so it's going to be an interesting one this season as well. And after Rockingham, we're going to head to Las Vegas Motor Speedway before we head back to our next Super Speedway, which will be Talladega, to round out October. And then it's off to Iowa Speedway, followed by Charlotte, Worldwide Technology on November 15th, the Milwaukee Mile on November 22nd. No race on Thanksgiving. Then it's Atlanta, Old Atlanta on December 6th, Michigan, December 13th, and then Texas Motor Speedway will be December 20th before we take a break for Christmas. And you know, what's interesting about this series, right, is you notice that there is a stage break, but notice when all those stage breaks are. in terms of, I guess I should say it in relevance, if you will, to how long each race is. And so if you look at it, I mean, we can use tonight's race as an example, but let's look all the way ahead to Charlotte. I know it's a ways away. Excuse me, I guess it'd be Iowa. But you see, that race is 177 laps. The stage break is on lap 50. And so the way it kind of sets up is the stage break almost acts as kind of a quick practice, if you will, for drivers to just kind of get ready for what to expect for each run in that long stage, which is where we actually start to see the green flag pit stops, among a few other things. As we go back here to the third place position, that's David Traylor. Currently is again up 9 positions from where he started this race at. And he is trying to work on catching up to that 20 car of Kenneth Redinger. And in fact, I think he's actually been tracking down both leaders here a little bit over the course of the last handful of laps or so. Question is, how much longer can those Goodyear tires hold on for David Traylor, and can they hold on long enough to get him all the way up to both of these two and maybe get around for the lead? And boy, that right there is what you worry about. Big slip up. A lot of throttle control for David Traylor as he worked his way off of turn 4. And it's just really, really tough in these Xfinity cars. Again, a little bit more horsepower than the trucks and a little bit less downforce. And at a track like Chicagoland, which is already pretty fast in of itself, you really start to lean heavily on any downforce you can get, any extra grip you can get out of the tires, which starts to fade away as the run goes on. That's why you see drivers start to slide around a little bit. And don't forget, we got back going green with about 35 laps or so complete, maybe a couple less. So we're getting close to being about 30 laps into this run. And that's kind of the portion of definitely into the medium range and starting to creep into the long run portion of it, right? We can only go 50 laps on fuel, so we're expecting that first green flag stop in any time from, really I'd say now, depending on what strategy you're working with, to running the window out, which would go all the way to about lap 85 or so, maybe to lap 90 even. And so with just 63 of 150 complete, Charles Van Schaik has still continued to dominate this race. He has led every single lap up to this point, just about. Kenneth Redinger's in second, and you've got David Traylor chasing from third. Eric Hegdahl's in fourth. Jay Stinson fifth with Justin Parham in sixth. And it's Joe Yates back in seventh in this little gaggle. 4-car battle. And right now, Colton Hardy stuck behind one of the Noma Motorsports drivers. That is Justin Parham, who leads this pack. As you see the 87 of Joe Yates kind of tucking in line behind the 19. Let's hop on board here with Joe Yates. And in fact, we'll go to the cockpit view. Watch the hands here and watch as he tries to kind of pick and choose different lines to run here. And if any of them are effective, trying to get around this 19 car. So Justin Parham here, I would assume, as he's got the cleanest air, is probably going to take the inside. No, he doesn't. He takes the high side, and notice what that does to Joe Yates. Joe Yates starts to try to get on the throttle the same time the 19 does, but his car, it's kind of stuck in that dirty wake, that dirty air. He's got no front downforce, and the nose just starts to plow up the racetrack. Over here at 3 and 4, let's see if Yates can maybe dive it a little bit lower. That's exactly what he does. He's trying to get some clean air on the nose. Works out a little better for him as he's trying to now put the hammer down off of 4. He's just going to have to keep kind of chipping away at it here, all while being pressured out back as well from the 97 of Colton Hardy. And then, of course, can't forget about the 12 of Michael Newman. Now, both of these two, the 97 and the 12, Colton Hardy and Michael Newman, these are two drivers that had really, really good qualifying efforts and ran at the front for a decent amount of stage 1, but ever since they have fallen back here, they're still struggling to try to get back towards the front. Now, I say back here, they're still inside the top 10, but the idea is that I got to feel like the 97 feels like he has at least top 5 speed here tonight, if not potentially top 3, as we see the leader going by the first lap car that he had to contend with all night. That was Lance Thompson in the 21, running the Smokey and the Bandit paint scheme. Good looking scheme for him, and he will be the first car, by the way, to go a lap down, so he is still, at least for now, in that lucky dog spot. But we're going to see some pit stops here. Haas Beverly, he's going to bring it down in the 22. Not sure if this was the scheduled stop or a little bit of a detour from plan. Either way, though, this is the first car on the lead lap to make a pit stop. And let's see what Haas Beverly decides to take here. Now, I mentioned that you're going to have to make one more stop, but during that second stop, you're not going to need much fuel at all. So I think you got to kind of assume to a degree that that's how it plays out. Looks like for Haas Beverly, at least for this pit stop, he's going to go ahead and take 4 tires, and he'll fill it up with gas as well before he tears out of the pits and tries to get back on track and back up to speed. So we'll see if that kicks off any sort of, kind of sequence of pit cycles. Nothing yet. As further back, David Traylor and Kenneth Redinger, they continue to duel it out for that second spot. David Traylor is putting a lot of pressure on this 20 car, especially over the course of the last 5 laps or so. He's just kind of going to continue to try to put more and more pressure on Redinger, especially if he feels like he is faster, which right now it certainly looks like he is. Here comes the 54, David Traylor. There's the 22 of Haas Beverly working his way back onto the racetrack. And Haas Beverly, of course, on fresher tires, and this is always fun to watch. And as a driver, even if you're not on the lead lap, this is fun to do. I mean, Haas Beverly is most likely going to just rocket right back by these two over the course of this lap. Maybe one more. Let's see. Watch how much more speed he can run here in 1 and 2. As, I mean, he just gets on the top, gets on the throttle, and look at that. I mean, it's not even fair, the difference in speed. And now he'll cross him over. And he let off a little bit there because he didn't want to accidentally run into the back of David Traylor, but he crossed him over. Now that he'll get to the bottom. Oh, man. Some contact between him and Kenneth Redinger. And, boy, that was not a very friendly collaboration right there as the 22 loses some momentum. It cost David Traylor in the process. And I have a feeling that Haas Beverly is probably not too happy with that one. I'm sure when he gets back to Redinger, he's going to be saying, you might want to just let me go this time. Otherwise, I may not be so nice with letting off. Watch this. As they get into the corner, I mean, it was kind of an interesting look, and I think the cockpit view did a little more justice. Again, Haas Beverly's on much fresher tires, and I think Redinger was expecting Haas to go straight to the bottom at this point. And so they just kind of get together. In fact, I don't think it was anything intentional, of course, on either driver's part, but I don't even think it was as bad as what we kind of initially thought it was. And you can see now that Haas Beverly was able to get right back around. And so he's good to go. In fact, kind of curious to see how that pass shaked up here when he was able to get back around Redinger this next time around. As they get off into the corner here, or was this off of turn 2? This is off of turn 2. 22's got a big run, and yeah, Redinger probably thought twice about trying to block him again after the incident that just took place. So he lets Beverly go, and Beverly is able to unlap himself now as he goes by the 23 of Charles Van Schaik. 73 of 150 laps complete. Almost halfway through. Actually, we're going to be halfway through in just about 2 laps from now. For Charles Van Schaik, he was maybe a little bit of concern. I don't even know if I'd call it concern, but if there was any for the driver of the 23 tonight, it was making sure that he saved enough tire so that he'd be able to last for the entire run, especially as he started to get into the long run, and he has done that. Redinger, who challenged him earlier, I thought that was going to be the driver that would come up here and make something happen, but that has not been the case, is now starting to see some more pit stops here. More drivers are starting to slowly take the bait, if you will, once they saw Haas Beverly going. But this is a little bit early, all things considered. Now, for David Traylor, it's not a bad call. He's trying some strategy play here because, remember, they have to make one more pit stop. But let's see what he takes on this one here. I would assume it'd be foreign fuel, and then maybe depending on how late he waits to pit the next time around, maybe he takes just fuel. We'll have to see, but for the 54, you saw the rights go up. Now you see the lefts go up. He'll roll out of the pits, try to get back on track as close to the front as he can. And Charles Van Schaik, he saw that on his relative, and he is going to quickly try to kind of counter that as, Michael Newman with some trouble there. The 12 car, I believe, got a little hot coming into the pit entry, and I think he got into the grass a little bit. But either way, we mentioned Charles Van Schaik now in the pits, as is Michael Newman. And it doesn't look like anybody else has decided to bring it down, at least not yet. Now there's Van Schaik. He's going to take 4 tires and fuel. Here comes Michael Newman. And by the way, this was getting into the pits for Michael Newman. Watch this from the cockpit view. Just gets in a little too hot here as he's trying to get the car straightened up. Gets a little sideways. Pit road comes up quick. And just gets a little bit into the grass. Overall, though, a nice save to not spin that car all the way out and make matters worse. So as we go back live now, Charles Van Schaik trying to work back up to speed. Eric Hegdahl has now taken over the lead. He's up 18 positions from where he started this race at. Joe Yates currently in second, Justin Parham in third. You got Colton Hardy fourth, and Dylan Paz currently rounding out your top 5. Well, watch as they work their way off the 4 here. We're going to see a pit stop. Yes, we are. It's going to be Colton Hardy this time as he gets in quite smooth. Let's see if everybody else behind him does as well. The 77, Michael Miller. Big lockup. I think he just barely snuck inside the commitment cone right there, kind of the last second. So that was a close call for the 77. Meanwhile, for the 18 of Evan Schilling, it's another one of the Turn 4 Racing drivers. He got in clean. And that's a good-looking paint scheme. I just noticed that Evan Schilling has the radar scope scheme on there tonight. And I'll tell you what, I can appreciate that. Radar scope. You know what? we'll leave it there. I study enough meteorology during the normal school day, so we're going to leave it alone for now. But good looking paint scheme nonetheless for the 18. Back up front, though, the 11 of Hegdahl has still not made this pit stop just yet. And you wonder if there's some sort of strategy he's playing here, although I don't really see what it is besides trying to run this one as long as you can and then maybe not have to run as long, or maybe not take quite as much fuel on the final stop. That's about all I can think of. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what else there is to gain from it. Meanwhile, sitting in second right now is the 19 of Justin Parham. Dylan Paul is just behind him in the 10. He's looking to see if he can maybe sneak around. Matthew Fritz in the 27. Haven't had a chance to mention him too much here tonight. He's been involved in at least one, if not a few incidents. As you saw a couple of right side scrapes there on the right side of that race car, the right door, if you will. And I don't remember those from the previous wreck, so I almost think he's maybe been in the wall a little bit since then. You've got Jonathan Dominics in 5th, Jesse Wise 6th, Kevin Winker in 7th with Rick LePage in 8th. LePage now making his pit stop, so he will give that spot back. Charles Van Schaik, he is going to now go around as he takes that spot back. And this is interesting because Van Schaik only pitted about a lap after David Traylor, so you wouldn't think the tire difference would be too major. And Redinger right now has fallen back to the third running spot of these three, if you will. So David Traylor, I got to count that as a net gain and kind of a net win for him because he got in front of Redinger via the pit sequence. And now it's just a matter of how close can he stay as, well, that's certainly not going to help right there. You saw he tagged the outside wall there coming off of turn 4. And that's going to certainly cost him some time. But what I was getting ready to say is, I got to think the question now would be, how close can he stay to the 23 of Van Schaik until this next pit stop? That might be his best chance of either trying to stay close enough to make a jump in the pits or stay close enough to come out and then make a move during that final run. By the way, weather outside, we mentioned track temp 76 degrees at the start of the race. Has not changed since. You notice sim time, sun continues to get further and further behind kind of the banking grandstand, if you will, off of turn 4. And it will continue that way here. Might be into nighttime by the time this race is all said and done. As right now in sim time, you can see it is currently just about 6:30. And you can still see that sun. It is still in the eyes of these drivers as they work into turn 3 until it kind of sinks behind the banking there into turn 4. But the shadow's definitely growing on this racetrack. And if that track temp cools down, the more it cools down, the more the grip picks up, the better the racing is going to get. Eric Hegdahl still out on the racetrack here with 83 of 150 laps complete. Justin Parham still out as well, as is Dylan Paws, Matthew Fritz, and Jesse Wise. Looks like Kevin Winker in the 42 still has to make his pit stop as well. We are now officially well over the halfway point in this 225-mile event. And for the 11 of Eric Hegdahl, I mean, get some laps led. Again, confidence can be built anywhere. And for some of these drivers, the best way to do it is just get a couple laps led, especially if it's a track that maybe you don't feel like is your best track. And you just want to get some laps to get a kind of a feel for things, if you will. Now, granted, we're not going to be coming back to Chicagoland. In fact, I don't think we go to any racetrack twice this season. But either way, look at this. 27 of Matthew Fritz. We mentioned that damage he had on the right side. He will now pit. You got to assume this is going to be 4 tires and fuel for him. And then interesting to see if he decides to get some of that damage hammered out of the door or if he just leaves it for now. And here we go. Eric Hegdahl now finally going to make that pit stop, as even he was a little bit loose there getting onto the pits. And interesting offset that you see Hegdahl's working there for this track. That's about, almost looks like that's at least 10 degrees offset to the left. But either way, as he works into his pit box, did he overshoot a little bit? Looks like he did not. Got a little worried there that the 11 may have gotten a little too far, but it's a clean stop. He'll now wait for the pit crew to finish giving him 4 tires, filled up with gas, and then he'll make his way back out. Dylan Paws still needing to make a pit stop. Will we see it this time? From the 10 here, he's trying to get it woed up. A little bit late on the entry here, but it looks like he does get it checked up enough. That's a good pit stop, good pit entry at least, for the 10 of Dylan Paws. And a beautiful looking paint scheme on his car as well. See the Paradise Island contracting. So Dylan will take 4 in fuel, and now that puts it down to just 2 cars still out on the racetrack that are yet to pit, and they are running just about side by side here. It's Kevin Winker and Jesse Wise. And, you know, part of me was wondering if there was any sort of trying to save enough fuel to make this on a 1-stop, but, I mean, again, from the general math I have, I would almost think that they'd have to make this to probably at least, and I mean at least lap 95 to even have a chance, and I just don't see any way that works out. Meanwhile, Jesse Wise, he's going to bail as he'll bring it down to the pits, and boy, he got in hot. A little bit of a lockup there at the end. A lot of drivers, I don't think they realize how abrupt the pit road entry here is at Chicagoland. I mean, you're rocking and rolling out of turn 4. Next thing you know, you got to check up to 30 miles an hour on old tires and then transition from banking to a flat apron. Certainly not an easy task to do. Meanwhile, Kevin Winker in the 42, still awaiting him to make his first green flag pit stop of this sequence. Currently sits just about 8 seconds ahead of the second place running car, Charles Van Schaik. But that gap will continue to decimate as each lap goes by. Almost to the point now of just 60 laps to go here at Chicagoland when we cross the line. Not next time, but the time after. That will be when we hit that lap 90 mark. But the real one that kind of grabs your attention as a driver is when we hit lap 100. Why? Because that is when the fuel window to make it to the end, that's when it opens up, right about 50 laps. Now, based off the strategies we saw, maybe some drivers pit a little bit sooner, maybe some drivers pit a little bit later. Either way, we knew it was going to be a 2-stop. And again, you're going to have to go to at least lap 100 before you pit if you're going to make it all the way to the end. Kevin Winker continues to stay out. Charles Van Schaik has now closed it another second. Almost has it down to 6.5 seconds now as he will work his way off towards turn number 1. And so when it does eventually cycle out here with Kevin Winker making that pit stop is, the 22 of Haas Beverly. He rode along the outside wall there for a good portion of 1 and 2. But once things complete the cycle here, and that's, again, just waiting on Kevin Winker to pit, Charles Van Schaik will take over the lead. David Traylor will be moved up to second, Redinger in third. Then it'll be Jay Stinson in fourth, Colton Hardy in fifth, Eric Hegdahl 6th, Bill Hales in 7th, Evan Schilling in 8th, Michael Miller in 9th. And that may not be for long, though, because here comes the 87, Joe Yates. And in fact, as it stands right now for Joe Yates, I believe he lost a lap here. I'm not sure how he lost it. But keep it on that scoring tower there on the left. Remember, we started this race with 22 cars, all of which are on the lead lap. Now we've only got 16 on the lead lap. Now, some of them, of course, I got to believe will get this back here maybe once Kevin Winker makes the pit stop, although I don't know, because now that I say that, he has indeed made the pit stop. Kevin Winker brings it down to the pits, and now he is working his way out of the pits after taking 4 tires and fuel, and he was able to stretch it all the way to lap 90. That's a pretty impressive fuel stretch there from Kevin Winker, although I still don't know that he's got enough to make it on a 1-stop from here. We'll have to wait and see. As for the rest of the field, a lot of them pitted way sooner than we were initially expecting. So I would expect that they would obviously pit a little bit sooner for the next stop as well. But as for if anybody pits as soon as that window opens, I don't know if we're going to see that. That may be a little bit too soon, as of course you don't want to use all your stuff up and then not have anything to work with late in the run, especially the final run. But either way, Charles Van Schaik has now reclaimed the lead. David Traylor second. Kenneth Redinger continues to run third. We're going to take a quick break. Stick with us. We'll be back at Chicagoland.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
Three by three.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. Finish. Who gets it in the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Chicagoland Speedway with just now going to be 56 laps to go. I take that back, not 56, pardon me. I meant to say 52 laps to go once Charles Van Schaik crosses the line this time here at Chicago. And man, I mean, what more can you really ask for if you're the 23? He's led the most laps. He won the stage. He's dominating relatively late here in the final stage. I mean, 50 laps to go. I know it sounds like a lot, but you figure you look at the lap times here and how quickly they tick him off. That's realistically only about another, 30 minutes of racing or so. And the reason I mention that is for Charles Van Schaik. He needs to keep it together here, and if he does, he is on track to grab his first win of the season in the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Xfinity Series. But don't count out Kenneth Redinger just yet. He's a second and a half back, and any sort of mistake or lap traffic could potentially affect this. And I mean, look at the lap times. The last 5 laps, they have kind of swapped back and forth a little bit. It was Kenneth Redinger who was faster the last 3 laps, but the 2 before that, it was Charles Van Schaik who was the better driver. And I say better driver, I guess I should just keep it to ran the better laps. Either way, point being, this could get a little bit interesting here. Kenneth Redinger, we know how good he is, one of the veterans, maybe not of this series, but of the NOMA series, and he's brought a lot of that experience over here to the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Series, and he's using that to now slowly but surely try to track down your leader, Charles Van Schaik. Well, if you're just tuning in, again, we appreciate you being here. Hope that you are enjoying your Friday night as you're watching, again, the QH Design 225 on PGR eSports. Charles Van Schaik continues to lead. Kenneth Redinger continues to close. He has it down to 1.3 seconds now. And remember, when he gets, and what's helping him right here actually too is probably a little bit of the draft he's getting from Kevin Winker. Now the 42, as Redinger gets closer, that may hurt him, but right now he's getting just a little bit, kind of sniffing the draft off of that 42 down the straights. And as he gets probably within a second, then he'll start pulling draft off of both of those cars, and especially Charles Van Schaik if Winker goes by him. And then notice into turn 3 now, which you don't see any more of, the sun. It is pretty much, well, I guess maybe just a little glimpse, still kind of hanging over the banking, but it's just about gone away. And that means that once that sun completely leaves the surface, we would expect the grip to start to pick up even more. Track temp, though, still at 76 for the moment. They are about halfway through this tire run now. Maybe just a little bit less. And that last pit stop, fuel window should be open pretty much any time from now all the way to the finish to make it to the end. But they still have to make that pit stop clean. And if you're up front, the pressure is going to be on, because for Charles Van Schaik, he wants to take it easy so that he doesn't make a mistake. But at the same time, Redinger's closing, and Charles is going to have to worry about if he takes it too easy and the 20, really sends it in to try to make up some ground. We could very well see a battle for the lead shaping up, if not before the pit stop, certainly just after it. As we go back through the field, a little bit of 2x2 racing here between the 55 and the 18. That's Evan Schilling and Bill Hales. Or excuse me, not Bill Hales. Bill Hales, the 53. That's Evan Schilling and Mark Beverly. Beverly not for a position, as he currently finds himself a lap down. And we are back up to 19 cars on the lead lap, by the way. Mark Beverly, Michael Newman, and Lance Thompson, the 3 cars that are not currently being scored on the lead lap, at least from the data we have there. Although, take that back. Looks like the refresh of the data shows that no, we don't have 19 on the lead lap. We've only got 16 on the lead lap. And Rick LePage being scored as the first car a lap down for the moment. So for Rick LePage, he's saying, come on, caution. If he can get one here, he can get back on the lead lap and be back in this race. And we are just about, well, we still got a little bit of ways to go, but once we hit lap 120 or anywhere around there, that's about the distance of what we ran for stage 1. Of course, subtracting caution, so however your car handled through the first stage, I almost think it wouldn't be a bad strategy to kind of pit right around lap 120, because then you know how you can run your car for those final 30 laps, if you, of course, are able to run it kind of the same as you did through that first stage that we had earlier, which was, by the way, won by the 23 of Charles Van Schaik, the man who continues to lead the way. But, man, I'm telling you, Kenneth Redinger, he continues to close that gap, and he is getting bigger and bigger in the mirror here of Charles Van Schaik, who, not sure if he's just struggling with grip here or if he's trying to save a little bit. Felt like he didn't need a push, and he'll start to push as Redinger gets closer. I'm not sure what the deal is, but certainly the first time we've seen anybody actually start to kind of reel in this 23 car here tonight. 107 of 150 complete. The 42 of Kevin Winker keeping himself unlapped by sitting just in front of the 23 for now. Redinger now has it down to almost half a second as they'll cross the line. This time it'll be 108 of 150 complete. By the way, quick reminder that PGR eSports will not be on tomorrow night, at least not for the NOMA Truck Series, as they are taking a break. So, and the reason I mention that is I know a lot of the drivers that we see in this series, we would see in that one. So, just wanted to make sure we remind everybody that that will not be broadcasted because there's no race tomorrow night. So this is the last piece of racing for the guys that are on these two series, at least league-wise, until next week. We head off to Phoenix Raceway. See how that one's going to pan out. Certainly going to be interesting, as there's the 11 of Eric Hegdahl. He'll complete a pass on the 2 of Jay Stinson, as he is now back up to the 4th position, and he's trying to close that gap a little bit on the leaders as well. Problem is it's 7 seconds. That's a lot of work to do with, realistically only 40 laps to go and still a pit stop in between. I just don't know if he's going to quite be able to get there. Kenneth Redinger, though, he is going to get there. He is now within half a second. He's well within drafting range, and he's close enough to where the 23 is going to have to start thinking about him. And it's kind of interesting because Redinger overall running a pretty similar line. Look at this. Van Schaik saw that. He's going to bail to the pits here. Redinger stays out. I don't know if that was the right call just yet for the 23, but Van Schaik, he dives it in deep to try to get in the pits as quick as he can. And I just don't know about that call. Redinger had already been tracking him down, and now you're going to give the advantage of fresher tires to Redinger. We'll have to see here. This will give the 23 a chance to pull out to a better lead now. I feel like maybe the idea here is he felt like he used his stuff up a little too much, and so maybe this pit stop's to kind of try to help him get a little bit of a reset, if you will. We'll find out as you see Haas Beverly. He's currently sitting in the pits as well. He's trying to figure out, yeah, that's your culprit right there. He's got some right front damage, so clearly some sort of incident that caused this 22 to come into pit. And here goes Charles Van Schaik. He'll make his way out of the pits. By the way, that was his final scheduled green flag stop here of the night. In fact, I did want to pay a little bit more attention than we did there on what he took here in terms of tires. Does he take 4? Yes, he does. So it was 4 tires and filled up with fuel for Charles Van Schaik. And we'll see if that's enough here to get him this win. Now, Redinger looking like going to try the opposite strategy. Kenneth is going to stay out here for a little while. That way, when he pits, he has the advantage of fresher tires. And then he'll go and try to track down that 23 car. But I almost wonder here for Redinger, you got to be careful, I feel like, that you don't wait too long, because you know that the lap times that Charles Van Schaik are running right now are going to be way quicker than the lap times that this 20 car is running. That's the advantage of fresh tires here. So we'll see how Redinger plays this out. But as it stands right now, notice some of these lap times here. Will the 20 pit this time? No, he doesn't. So he ran a 32.3 and a 32.3 the last 2 laps. Let's go down and compare that to Charles Van Schaik, who right now sits a lap down, but is back up to full pace. And so we'll have to wait and see what this lap is when he actually crosses the line. And looks like it's a 31.184. So as the fall-off stands right now, it's about 1.2 seconds. So each lap that Redinger stays out right now, Charles Van Schaik is gaining 1.2 seconds worth of time over that 20 car. And that's why you'll see a gap between them once things do cycle out. We still got a lot of drivers, though, that have to make that final pit stop that have chosen to not as of yet. David Traylor, Eric Hegdahl, who sits 2nd and 3rd, and Boy, Hegdahl, he's really starting to close it up here. We talked about it being 7 seconds. That's over the leader, but over David Traylor, it's about 4.5 seconds now. And he's closing it closer to 4 seconds here as each lap goes by. Jay Stinson battling with Justin Parham Jay Stinson, that's not for position. That would be why. Jay Stinson, I was going to say battling here with the 21, but Lance Thompson not currently on the lead lap, so that spot not for position. Lance on fresher tires, though, so he'll drive right by without any issue. Meanwhile, a little bit of a 3-car line further back. Michael Miller, Bill Hales, and Michael Newman, who currently is also not on the lead lap. And Bill Hales, a little bit of right rear damage there. Not sure where he got that from, but you wonder if that affects the 53 at all. Either way, tires are really starting to wear out. Drivers, you know they're starting to feel it. And wouldn't be surprised here if we're kind of getting to that point where sooner or later something's got to give for somebody. The question's going to be who and when. As Roger Strickland, haven't mentioned him yet here tonight. That's the driver of the number 52. Toyota Supra, who sits in 12th. He's up 3 positions from where he started this race at. And still sitting on the lead lap. That's one of the Turn 4 Racing drivers. So a good run so far for Roger Strickland here tonight. See if he can keep it up as we are approaching here in just about 4 laps. 30 laps to go, which is where I mentioned is kind of that point where it would be similar to a stage run, the run we had in stage 1 if you make a pit stop. So I wouldn't be shocked. Again, they might choose to run it out, but watch lap 120 to be another hot spot for a couple drivers to maybe bring it down, take their final adjustments, final fuel and tires. And it's not their final fuel, but it might very well be their final set of tires, because you figure we had 4 tires for this race, and that includes the one that you start the race with. So you've got 3 sitting in the pits. You take 1 at the end of the first stage, took 1 on that first pit stop, and then you're probably going to take the final one here on this last green flag stop, which of course Charles Van Schaik has already done. And I just don't know. Every lap that they stay out, I'm telling you, this 23 car is going to have a ridiculous gap over Redinger and really anybody else in the top 3 once they eventually do make their pit stop. But at least for now, Redinger, he likes the strategy of staying out. He was tracking down that 23 car and feels like he'll be able to do it again. Charles Van Schaik has now got that lap back, I believe, or is he not quite? It's close. And actually looks like Charles Van Schaik now running on the front stretch here. He did. Got that lap back. So for Van Schaik here, he's just going to continue to kind of utilize this clean air. I know he's not a lead, but he has still got a pretty good patch of no traffic right now. Meanwhile, Redinger kind of running around Kevin Winker. That helps the 20 on the straights, but not so much in the corners. And we're going to be coming to lap 120. Watch for pit stops right around either this lap, next lap, or the lap after. Let's see here. Does Redinger decide to bring it down this time? Got checked up a little bit, but he doesn't. He'll stay out yet again. Let's see what the fall off looks like now for Redinger. Over the course of the last couple laps, it's a 32.3 and a 32.4. We go down and we compare that to Charles Van Schaik. It's a 31.2 and a 31.1. So Charles Van Schaik still at least 1.2 seconds faster for the most part, at least for now. And who knows, maybe some of the leaders when they pit here, maybe they don't take 4 tires. Maybe they only take 2 and fill it up with fuel. But boy, Redinger, he's just having a really, really tough time here trying to work around Kevin Winker. And the longer he stays side by side and behind this 42, the more time it's costing him. And David Traylor, actually, he started to notice that, and he's starting to creep back up now. Eric Hegdahl's progress is kind of flattened out. After getting down to about 6.5 seconds, it started to creep back up. Now at almost 7 seconds. And then Justin Parham, who sits back in 5th. You got Dylan Pauls and Colton Hardy. This is a little bit of a race here for the 6th position. Hardy's going to go to the inside, and will he get clear? Not quite. Here comes Dylan Pauls, fighting back on the outside, grabs the right rear. He'll get a side draft, and he will take that position back as they work down the backstretch. Dylan going to try to get clear into 3. Yes, he will. He'll jump down. That moves him right back up to the 6th position. For Colton Hardy, of course, one of the guys that was carrying an onboard view for us here tonight. This is what the view is looking like right now, as he knows we are getting closer and closer to crunch time. And he knows that that pay window is starting to open now, as we are going to be approaching 25 laps to go here in just a few laps. And we'll back up front again. Still no pit stop, at least not as of yet, for Kenneth Redinger. You know the time is coming. It's just going to be a matter of when and kind of who else goes with him. Because there's still a lot of drivers up here, especially in your top 3, obviously, that have not made that final stop, at least not yet. It's Jay Stinson. Talked about him back and forth. I was trying to see if there was anything else going on track as it stands right now, and the answer is not really. Jonathan Dominic's a little bit of side-by-side action there down the front stretch with the 77 of Michael Miller, but Miller's going to take that spot. And that'll move him up to the 11th position as Dominic's now fighting back on the inside. Here we go. This is what we've been waiting on. Redinger, he does make that pit stop, and now watch the track map because Charles Van Schaik, he is the number 13 dot. You see that's working into turn 3 right now. And so let's see here. Redinger is just now working his way into the pits. Here comes Van Schaik off of turn 4. And oh man, he is going to absolutely obliterate him here coming out of the pits. I mean, this isn't even going to be close. Redinger is still sitting in the pits right now. Van Schaik's already went by. Redinger has not even fired to leave the pits yet. He finally does here, but he's still got to get up to speed, go all the way around the apron in 1 and 2 just before he's even going to be able to jump back on the actual racetrack. So let's see how this ends up cycling out here. So there's Redinger. We'll wait till he merges back out, and once he does, that's when we'll compare where he is compared to Charles Van Schaik. So he just now gets out, and meanwhile Charles Van Schaik is almost in turn 1. What does that tell you? Well, that tells you that Kenneth Redinger is going to have a lot of work to do. Granted, though, he does have the fresher tires now, although I don't know if it was the right strategy call. We'll have to wait to find out. The 97 of Colton Hardy is down in the pits. David Traylor wraps up his stop as Michael Miller, Bill Hales, Matthew Fritz, and Rick LePage, they have also all brought it down for their final pit stop as well. Back towards the front, here comes Jay Stinson. Looks like we had a few others here. Evan Schilling, he'll bring it down for 4 tires and fuel. Bill Hales, Michael Miller. Michael Miller actually working his way out of the pits now in that pink and yellow number 77. So we'll wait for him to merge back on the racetrack, and as he does so, looks like he'll come out somewhere back around the late teens to low 20s, as it is now just 24 laps to go here at Chicagoland. Eric Hegdahl currently being scored as your leader. We saw this earlier, though. He stayed out the latest, or I guess I should say not the latest, but one of the latest drivers to stay out during that last green flag cycle. I think he's going to do it again, but from everything we know, unless there's some miracle that he pulled off that we missed, he is not going to be able to make it all the way on fuel at this point. He has to pit again, as does Justin Parham and Dylan Paz. And then once they do make their final stops, that is going to put Charles Van Schaik back to the lead. And then the question becomes, can Kenneth Redinger track him down? Notice what the gap is right now. It's about 13 seconds that separate the 23 and the 20. You see right now Redinger just working his way into turn 3, now working through 3 and 4. And right as he exits turn 4, Charles Van Schaik is exiting turn 2. So they've got a little bit over a straightaway separating them. In fact, a straightaway plus maybe a set of corners. And for Charles Van Schaik, I mean, if he doesn't make any major mistakes, I just find it hard to believe that the fall off is 13 seconds worth that this 23 car would lose, especially with how fast he's been. Now, granted, he did pit early, though, so, you know, that fall off might hit him a little bit harder at the end of this run, as now that gap is down to about 12 seconds. So Redinger is closing it. And again, it'll close a little quicker at first, and we'll see if it starts to settle out as the laps go on, or if it continues to close as quickly as it is right now. Either way, still awaiting pit stops from Eric Hegdahl, Justin Parham, and Dylan Paz as they make up your top 3. We're going to head to break. We'll be back at Chicagoland.
I played a couple of simulators, and this was like very responsive. Especially the hydraulics and stuff, the motion and stuff was really, really on point.
Make you feel like you're really driving. It feels real.
It adds so much to the experience. It's just really, really cool.
It was pretty awesome.
Green flag is in the air. We are racing.
3 by 3.
Almost no trouble. Around goes Alex Hill. On into the outside wall goes Hill. They're wrecking big time out back. We're not going to throw a caution. To the finish. Who gets it at the line? Cody Nagels wins it in Talladega.
Welcome back to Chicagoland Speedway. Closing in now on the end of the QH Design 225 for the Asphalt Outlaws Racing Series. More specifically, the Xfinity Series this season. And Eric Hegdahl finally took it to the pits right as we were coming back from break. And so now that'll officially cycle things out and set us up for the finish of this event. So here's how it looks right now. The 23 of Charles Van Schaik currently leading the way. You see him running the inside in that bright yellow SpongeBob-colored Ford Mustang. There goes a couple of cars trying to get their lap back. But here's the bad news for Charles Van Schaik. He's still going to have 14 laps to go, and Redinger is closing in at an unbelievable rate. He's got it down to just 4 seconds behind this 23 car. And so basically, Redinger's going to get there. At the rate he's going right now, unless something changes. Now, granted, I'm not sure if the 23 had some sort of issue or if there was anything else. As Joe Yates here, I believe this was during his pit stop, by the way. Wanted to show you this while we were over break. A little bit of an issue for the 87 as loops it around, and oh, man, that's a pretty hard hit. Into the inside concrete, has to back it up, get it back rolling the right way. But going back up front for Charles Van Schaik, I mean, you figure Redinger's probably going to get there with somewhere around 10 to go, maybe just a couple laps less. And so that means he's going to have to find a way to fight off that 20. But with Redinger having so much fresher tires than Van Schaik, I just don't know if he's going to have a way to do it. And I mean, Van Schaik's been the better car on the short run on even tires. And for most of this race, seemed like he was better on the long run as well. But Redinger tried some strategy play, and it has worked out really, really well for that 24 car. Or excuse me, that 20 car rather, as it is now getting him in position to potentially grab his first win of the season as well. As he works his way off of turn 4. See, he is really starting to push it now, and notice that he is cutting the apron. Haven't noticed if the 23's been doing that or not, but any time that you can try to hold the 24 off, and this, I should note this too. You see a couple of lap cars here just behind Charles Van Schaik. If Redinger catches either of those two at a bad time, that's going to hurt him. Van Schaik's already got around them, so he doesn't have to worry about it. But it's at the point now where Redinger can see that 23 out his windshield, as the gap now is under 3 seconds as he gets into turn 3, coming to 11 laps to go now. And remember, we've got to get all the way to the white flag before this race will be official. We have been on an extremely long green flag run, though, to the point where we've already seen 2 pit cycles on 95% fuel. But it's all still going to find a way to come down to 2 cars, 2 of the best all night. And who picked the better strategy and who wants it more here at the end. Van Schaik, again, got the pole, won the first stage, looking to go for the sweep if he can get the win here tonight. Also, believe he has led the most laps based off the amount he led early and then what he has led here late. But Redinger trying to steal one, and now it seems like although that gap's closing, the progress is becoming a little bit more hindered here for Kenneth Redinger. He's not closing quite as quickly as he was. And you almost got to, I feel like if you're Redinger, you're either hoping for a caution or hoping right there, exactly what happened there, that Van Schaik gets held up by a couple of lap cars. And that's exactly what happened there as Michael Newman was trying to get around him to get a lap back. It put that 23 in an awkward spot, cost him about half a second. And now for Redinger, that gap will close down to just about 2 seconds. And with 9 laps to go, once Redinger gets to probably about 2.5 seconds, but more so a second, that's when he's in range where he can start to actually get a bit of a draft off this 23 and start to pull closer a little bit quicker. You know, just go to the rear chase. You see Redinger, he is now on the same straightaway. The 77 of Michael Miller right now just kind of hanging around. No move to be made yet on this 23 car. And as he looks for a bit of a crossover here, we'll see, does he go? No, he doesn't. What he's trying to do, well, what he tried to do there was give a little bit of a push to the 23 of Charles Van Schaik and try to figure out if these two are potentially working together right here. I think we'll get a better idea based off the way they kind of go about it on the backstretch, because Miller's certainly on fresher tires. And for Michael Miller, though, as it stands right now, it doesn't look like he's pushing too much to get around this 23. And that might be really helping Van Schaik right now. Even just that aero support that he's getting down the straightaways is keeping him just above 2 seconds ahead of Kenneth Redinger. And for Redinger, I mean, he's running out of time. Van Schaik is now cutting the apron on the front stretch as well. Redinger doing everything he can. But I just don't know if he's quite going to be able to get there. And, you know, if he doesn't, boy, for Redinger, he's going to be sitting there scratching his head and saying, man, if only I would have pit, I don't know, a lap or two sooner, maybe it works out. But at the same time, if this strategy works out, he might be thinking, if I would have pit a lap or two sooner, maybe it wouldn't have. Either way, Michael Miller finally going to get around the 23. And so now that'll provide some drafting support for the 23, at least from a car in front. Maybe not so much out back. And now Redinger's got a car in between him and the leader. That's the 87 of Joe Yakes. That is one of the lap cars. We'll see if Yakes lets the 20 go by, if he gets to him, or if Yakes has enough speed here to go up and go back around the 23 and the 77. It's going to be coming to just 5 laps to go when they cross the line this time. For Charles Van Schaik, he still leads the way by 1.5 seconds over Noma Motorsports' Kenneth Redinger. Both drivers, from what we know, again, not sure who got it last week, but the knowledge we have, looking for their first win on the season. It'd be a big one for both, but especially for Charles Van Schaik to get himself this much confidence. I mean, he's already going to have confidence leaving this race with how much he led, how much speed he had. But this right here just continues to hurt this 23. Side by side on exit right there. That's not what he needed. Now he's stuck side by side down the straightaway. Has to bail out. That allows Redinger to now close it to just over 1 second, as they're going to be coming to 4 laps to go. And the question then becomes, if Redinger gets to this 23, what does he do? Is he willing to have to try to move him a little bit if he needs to? Does he try to make him make a mistake, or does he try to force the issue as soon as he gets there? Try to take it to the inside of the outside. Redinger is now within drafting range, so that will help him out a little bit on the straights. But remember, every time, or the closer he gets, the harder it becomes to get that car to turn, especially on tires this old, as that dirty air is certainly not going to play in his favor. They'll be coming to 3 laps to go. The gap is now down to 0.5 seconds. Kenneth Redinger can almost feel how close he is to Charles Van Schaik. Van Schaik is trying to hold on for all it is worth. Both drivers with a chance to win. Bearing no caution here. Again, we still got to make it to the white flag to eliminate, or to kind of check that box, if you will. The 77 of Michael Miller kind of hanging right here might be all Charles Van Schaik needs. It's a little bit of draft, and so that means that Redinger can't close up quite as quick, but that's not what he needs right there. When the 77 runs his line, that makes it a little bit tougher for the 23 to turn. Redinger, though, not able to close the gap anymore, at least not that lap. Still 0.5 seconds now as we take 2 laps to go. And if you're Charles Van Schaik, you have got to be perfect. Kenneth Redinger trying to set up for one more run. He gets it off of turn 2. Now the gap will close to under 0.5 seconds. Can Redinger close a little bit more here? He's going to have to pick up the pace through 3 and 4 if he wants to get there. Ooh, Charles Van Schaik got a little bit high. Look at Redinger. He's able to wrap the bottom. And the nose of his Chevy Camaro gets bigger. Van Schaik slips up. Here we go. Redinger with the run. White flag is in the air. 1 to go, and Redinger's going to look to the inside. Kenneth Redinger with a big move going off into turn 1. He will get clear. Charles Van Schaik, can he find a way to get back around? The 23 is looking for a crossover. Not enough momentum to get there, but he is still close. This will be the final time in the 3 and 4. Does the 23 think about moving them? Here they go down into the corner. Van Schaik is looking for one more move. It's not going to happen. Redinger cuts him off. The 20 will come out of turn 4, the leader. And look at this. Kenneth Redinger wins it at Chicagoland. On a last lap pass. And a great finish as the 20 had to hold him off through one more set of corners. In 3 and 4, Redinger steals one on the last lap, and it's heartbreak for Charles Van Schaik, who brings home a second-place finish, and David Traylor rounds out the podium. Oh, my goodness. Well, we got to go back and look at this white flag lap. And you know what? For Van Schaik, this is going to be interesting to hear in his interview because this one mistake, I think, may have been what cost him the race. He gets side by side here with Michael Miller. And watch it from the chopper view here. He's going to get loose under Miller, and it costs him a whole bunch of time and momentum. So he feels like he's got to go here. He feels like the 77's holding him up. He tries to jump low, and then on exit here, he's trying to hold it down, just gets a little bit loose, and then look at the run from Redinger out back. Here comes the 20. He's going to dive to the inside. Van Schaik was not able to cover. The 20 actually gets clear before they even get into turn number 1. He'll take that move, take that spot. And then Van Schaik, boy, you got to hand it to him. He did a good job here. I thought once Redinger got by, that was going to be it. Kind of brush it off, and it was over, but it was not. Van Schaik had a big run here coming into the final corner, and he tries to dive in deep, tries to get a nose under Redinger here, but Redinger able to hold him off, beats him down to the white line. As the 23 gets a little bit tight on exit, Kenneth Redinger comes home a winner. All right, so as we go back live, doesn't look like we'll see any burnout. If we did, we must have missed it for Kenneth Redinger. But either way, taking a look at your finishing results here tonight, Kenneth Redinger for Noma Motorsports, he is your race winner. And then Charles Van Schaik, again, heck of an effort here tonight. Certainly one of the 2 best cars, but not quite able to hold on right there at the end. He brings home second. David Traylor finishes on the podium. It's Jay Stinson back in 4th. Eric Hegdahl 5th with Justin Parham in 6th. Colton Hardy 7th with Dylan Pauls in 8th. Matthew Fritz in 9th. And Bill Hales rounding out your top 10. Evan Schilling finishes in 11th. It's going to be Roger Strickland in 12th. Michael Miller in 13th. Then you've got Jonathan Dominics in 14th with Jesse Wise back in 15th. Mark Beverly 16th. Rick LePage in 17th. Kevin Winker finishes back in 18th here tonight. And it's Michael Newman, Joe Yakes rounding out your top 20. Lance Thompson finishes 21st. Toss Beverly 22nd. And Keith Prince rounds out the field tonight, finishing 23rd, although he did not actually make it on track. So 22nd place car was what rounded out the field here tonight. All right, we're going to go grab your top 3 for interviews. Stay with us. We'll be right back at Chicagoland. All right, we're going to start first here tonight with your race winner, Kenneth Redinger. Kenneth, this is all set up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, you get the win and you steal the pass on the last lap. Man, you had been working on there for probably about the last 30 laps. How were you able to just find enough there on the last lap?
Yeah, I think he had a lot older tires than the rest of us, and then he hit that lap down traffic they were going through with better tires, I think, than all of us. And I think that dirty air and in combination with the old tires, and I was able to get to his bumper there.
Well, I'll tell you what, I kind of felt like it was just a matter of time before we were going to be talking to you up here. And, you know, you grabbed this win with just the 3rd race of the season complete. How does this help you and the team going forward, knowing that we still have plenty of races and you've already got yourself a win?
Oh, it's good. It's good to get a win and at least know you can run this car and run it up front. And then, I guess we're going to, I don't know where we're going next week, but yeah, just good to know that you can run up front here.
We're heading to the desert next week in Phoenix. That'll be another good one. But as for tonight, you grabbed the win. So, hey, before we let you head out to go celebrate, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Yeah, just shout out to these guys for putting on this league. Nice large league, and it seems to be ran well. And shout out to all my teammates.
Thank you, of course, for talking to us, Kenneth. Congrats on the win, and we will see you next week.
All right, thank you. Good night.
All right, and now that's going to bring us up to your 2nd place finisher. Well, I was hoping it would. We'll have to see if we can find Charles Van Schaik. In the meantime, we'll go ahead and move on to your 3rd place finisher, David Traylor. David, this is Austin up in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, got you, Austin.
Well, you bring home a 3rd place finish here tonight. Overall, a pretty consistent run. Maybe not the fastest car, but you still had to kind of work your way through the field throughout the race. Tell us a little bit about it and what more you think you could have had here tonight.
Honestly, I don't know what else I could have done. I think we were definitely a top 3 car. I don't know if we were 1st or 2nd. The 20 and the 23 were just a little bit better than us. But I kind of figured out how I wanted to actually drive the car about midway through the second stint or the second run there. So that kind of helped me distance myself from the guys behind me and then it kind of just became down to strategy, when to take tires, when to pit. I did what I thought might have worked, and we came up just a little bit short.
Well, a little bit short overall, but a great finish still nonetheless with the third place and another podium added on to the season. And, you know, next week we head to Phoenix, first short track of the season. How do you kind of approach it knowing that we've been to only 1.5 miles and greater so far?
You know, I typically like short tracks. You know, it's consistent. You got to get up on the wheel. You got to be prepared for a door here and there. I've run good at Phoenix before. Don't think I've ever finished good, but I've always run good there. So we'll see how it goes. Got to get used to driving these Xfinity cars again. They handle a little different than the trucks. And if the race is anything like this, the track will change throughout the race. It'll get a little looser, a little tighter, depending on where you run. So we'll see what we can do. Put in a little practice next week and try to put on the podium and get a win again.
Sounds like a plan. And of course, I said only 1.5 miles or greater. Of course, Nashville Super Speedway, not necessarily 1.5 miles, but certainly races like one. Either way, though, David, before we let you head out here tonight to wrap up a good third place finish, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
Oh, yeah. I want to thank my new team over at Loose Lug Nuts. Joe, Jesse, Colton. Unfortunately, Joe and Jesse didn't have a great run. A couple penalties got them. Colton had a pretty good run for once, kept it clean. So congrats to them. Congrats to the top two, Kenneth and Charles. I was watching it in the windshield, hoping maybe they would make a little contact on the white flag lap and I could steal one, but no, they did what they were supposed to do. So congrats to them. Thanks to my sponsor, JC Newman Cigar Company, great partner of mine, Mushroom Top Tea. And then thanks to you for putting on an awesome broadcast. I can't wait to go back and watch this one. And then thanks to my wife for letting me do this, and my dad watching at home.
Thank you for talking to us, David. Congrats on the third place finish, and we will see you next week.
Thanks, Austin.
All right, and now that will bring us to your second place finisher here tonight, Charles Van Schaik. Charles, this is Austin in the booth. You got a copy?
Yeah, I got you.
Well, man, so close, but you come up just a bit short. First off, break us down what happened there, coming through 3 and 4, coming to the white, and then break us down what happened on that white flag lap.
Yeah, just, 77 was there, lap car. I mean, I know he's fighting for position, but, at that point, once we're coming to the white, I mean, there's going to be no lucky dog, or staying on the lead lap. And he just took my air off, and I got a little loose. I could have went down and blocked hard, but I didn't want to ruin a good race. He had a good run there. Had a shot at the end because, the last, I don't know, 8 to 10 laps, the lap times were evening out somewhat. So yeah, should have pitted a little later, but I figured we had an extra set because we ran green. Figure I'd pit early, get back on the lead lap right away, and then hope that if there was a caution, I have that other set in there and go from there. But all in all, good race. Just wish it would a little bit more track awareness, but that's my fault, to pit early and be out there and relying on other people. So
yeah, certainly a heartbreaking finish the way things ended, but I mean, overall, you said it's still a good race, and it was a good run for you, bringing home second. You took the pole, you took the stage. How do you feel like this momentum kind of sets the stage for you moving forward for the rest of the season?
It's momentum's pretty good. I mean, other than Daytona, it's been top 10 last week's. There was debating. We had not a bunch, but a little bit of cautions there in Nashville, and then I decided to stay out, with a bunch of other people, and then it runs green the rest of the way. So we'll get on the right side of the strategy somewhat, and put one together. I mean, I'm obviously, the 23 car is obviously fast enough to win most weeks. So obviously I'll be hopefully getting some wins here and there. But I appreciate Mark for letting me run in here with these guys. Started with these guys a couple years ago and took some time off. So.
Well, before we let you head out here tonight to wrap up a good second place finish, is there anyone you want to thank or shout out?
I mean, you for doing the broadcast, like I said, Mark, and the whole Beverly crew. Respect all of them. Love racing with them. Love the guys in here. Good win by Kenneth. just and you know the turn, what is it, turn 4? I'm in so many leagues now, forgetting the team names here. What the turn 4 racing, you know, Keith and Roger and Bill, Rick, Evan, all those guys. Appreciate them letting me hang in there as the outsider. So and obviously to my Go Racing Diecast company lets me do a lot of this stuff with that in my other job. So I appreciate everyone that's watching, and like I said, all the drivers. Great race, great 2 races. Daytona is what it is, but the last 2 races, very good races, and I'm looking forward to Phoenix. Hopefully we keep the green flag and the runs going.
Absolutely. Well, hey, Charles, thank you for talking to us. Congrats on the 2nd place finish here tonight, and we will see you next week.
All right, thanks.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up our coverage here tonight from Chicagoland. Crazy race, but a clean one. Only 2 cautions. Actually, I think it was only 1, and then the other one, of course, was scheduled for the stage break. Point is, long green flag run to end it, and yet it still all came down to 1 lap and a last lap pass by Kenneth Redinger to secure himself the win here tonight. Well, that's going to do it for me, Austin Green, here on PGR eSports. As always, thank you all so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, have a good night.